Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the world of hackathons.
Ooh, hackathons.
Yeah, you know those coding marathons. You hear
Yeah.
about where people are building software projects super fast, like lightning speed?
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
supposed to be all about innovation and networking, and sometimes there are prizes.
Prize is always a good motivator, right?
Right. But are they really all they're cracked up to be? That's what we're
Mm.
going to be looking at today. We're going to be doing that using an article
Oh, cool.
from Algo Academy,
Okay.
which is a coding education platform.
Makes sense.
And the article is titled, Are Hackathons Just Marketing for Tech Companies?
Oh, interesting. So if you're thinking about maybe going to a hackathon or just curious about what all the hype is about,
Yeah, stick with us.
definitely.
We'll uncover the pros and the cons.
We will.
And we'll even break down a simple coding project from the article as an example of what you might actually see or work on at a hackathon.
I think that's a really good idea because sometimes it's hard to visualize what actually happens at one of these events.
Totally.
So yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first, what exactly ESI is a hackathon?
Well, the article describes it as like an intensive coding event.
Okay.
It usually spans like a whole weekend,
Oh, wow.
where teams of people are racing against the clock, basically,
Oh, wow.
to build software projects, from scratch.
From nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Intense. All right, I've heard stories about people like pulling all-nighters just drinking caffeine
Oh, yeah.
and just like living off that thrill of competition.
Oh, absolutely. The energy is palpable.
Yeah, but beyond the energy drinks and the sleep deprivation, what are some of the main goals of a hackathon?
Definitely problem solving. Like hackathons usually have a theme or like a set of challenges, and
Right.
it really pushes people to come up with creative solutions, but using technology, of course.
Using technology, of course. So,
It's a fantastic opportunity to learn new skills too.
Yeah.
New technologies, and of course, network with other developers that are passionate like you.
oh, so it's like a pressure cooker for innovation,
Yeah.
but there's also that social element.
100%. Yeah, there's that real community aspect.
Yeah, and the article talks about hackathons being a learner's paradise, especially if you're new to coding.
I can see that. I mean, think about it. You're surrounded by all these people that are excited about the same things as you.
Yeah.
Everyone's willing to help each other out. There's that camaraderie.
Yeah.
And you get to learn by doing, which is like the best way to learn, in my opinion.
Right. It's not just reading a textbook. It's not just watching a tutorial.
Joe.
It's actually getting your hands dirty
Exactly.
and building something real.
100%.
And speaking of building, the article uses this analogy of a hackathon being like a taste of the entrepreneurial experience.
That's a good one because you go through that whole process from like brainstorming an idea
Okay.
to developing a prototype and even pitching it to judges.
Oh, wow.
So you learn how to work in a team, how to manage your time when you're under pressure,
Right.
and how to like communicate your ideas clearly,
Okay.
which are all very valuable skills, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or just enhance your career.
So we've got problem solving, skill development, networking, a taste of entrepreneurship. That's quite the package deal.
It is a pretty good deal.
But we got to be honest here. There is another side to hackathons that I think we need to talk about.
Yeah, the elephant in the room.
The marketing scheme aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they offer amazing learning opportunities like we just talked about, but it's important to know how companies use these events to their advantage.
To their advantage. So they're getting brand exposure,
Yeah, for sure.
a chance to scout for new talent.
That's a big one.
And they might even be testing out new product ideas
Oh, for sure.
or even gathering market research.
Absolutely. They get to see what problems developers are passionate about solving,
Right.
which can be really helpful for their own product development.
Right. It's almost like crowdsourcing innovation.
Huh.
But then this raises a really important question. Are companies basically getting free labor?
That's the question, isn't it?
Are they exploiting people's ideas?
That is a concern that's often brought up, and it's something that every participant should think about.
Yeah. Are you really getting valuable experience or are you being used?
Exactly. Are you just a free resource?
And it's interesting how Algo Academy, as a coding education platform, how they approach this issue.
Okay.
They acknowledge that hackathons can be valuable,
Uh-huh.
but they emphasize the importance of preparing beforehand
Oh.
and then
Well,
continuing to learn afterwards.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like they're saying don't just Rely on the hackathon to teach you everything. Take ownership.
Right, take control of your learning.
Exactly. And I think platforms like Algo Academy can play a big role in that.
Absolutely. They provide that structured learning environment that you need to build foundational skills, whether it's a new programming language or a specific framework,
Okay.
or just strengthening your problem-solving skills.
So it's not just about showing up and hoping to win.
No.
It's about being prepared,
Yeah,
having a plan.
exactly. And platforms like Algo Academy can help you build that foundation.
Before we get too far into the preparation aspect, I want to look at an actual coding example from the article.
Oh, perfect. Let's see it.
It's a Python script that uses the Open Weather Map API to fetch weather data.
I love this one. This is great. It highlights some really fundamental coding concepts that are relevant to a lot of hackathon projects.
Okay, so we're talking about like interacting with APIs,
Yeah.
parsing data,
Uh-huh.
even handling errors. It's all there.
It's all there in this one little script.
Maybe for our listeners who aren't familiar with coding, let's define a few terms.
Yeah.
What exactly is an API?
So an API is basically like a messenger
Okay.
that lets different software applications talk to each other.
Okay.
So in this case, the Open Weather Map API lets our little Python script request weather data from their servers.
So our little script is sending a message like, hey, Open Weather Map, can I get the weather data for London?
Exactly. And the API delivers it right back to the script.
And the data comes back in a format called JSON,
Yes, JSON.
which is a common way to structure data on the web.
like a little package of information.
Okay, so we've got our script talking to the API, getting the data back in this JSON format.
Right.
What happens next?
Well, then the script has to parse the JSON data, which means it extracts the specific pieces of information that we need, like the temperature, humidity, wind speed,
So it's like sifting through a treasure chest to find the gold nuggets.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
And once we have those nuggets, we can display them to the user in a way that makes sense.
Right, like maybe create a simple text output
Okay?
or even a very basic graphical interface.
And the article mentions that this simple weather script is just a starting point.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It can be expanded into something way more complex.
Absolutely. With a little creativity and some more coding, you could turn this basic script into like a full-blown weather application.
Oh, wow.
Like imagine adding features like multiple locations, historical weather data,
Oh,
even personalized alerts based on the user's preferences.
so we've established that hackathons can offer a crash course in entrepreneurship, a chance to level up your coding skills, a platform for networking.
Yep.
But we also have to acknowledge those downsides,
Right.
the risk of exploitation, the pressure to produce something amazing in a very short amount of time,
Yeah, it can be really intense.
and the potential for it to just feel like a glorified marketing event.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to go in with the right mindset.
Right, and that leads us to this big question. Can hackathons be beneficial to participants and serve a company's interests at the same time, or is it always one or the other?
That is the million-dollar question.
We'll explore that more in detail in the next part of our deep dive. Yeah, it's a tricky balance, isn't it? Trying to figure out if hackathons are really good for the participants or if they're just a clever way for companies to like push their own agendas.
Yeah, it's definitely not black and white.
Yeah.
More like shades of gray. But the Algo Academy article has some really good recommendations, I think, for making sure that hackathons are a win-win for both sides.
Okay. You talk about transparency being really important. Like organizers need to be upfront about their goals for the event and what participants can actually expect to gain from it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, are they mainly focused on recruiting new talent?
Okay.
Are they trying to get feedback on a new product?
Right.
Or are they actually committed to providing like a learning and networking experience for the people who are participating?
And it's not just about transparency, though. The article also talks about fair compensation for participants.
Right, because if you're essentially working for a company for a whole weekend,
Yeah.
Developing something that they could potentially profit from, there should be some kind of compensation or recognition for that time and effort.
For sure. That makes sense. And the challenges themselves should be diverse. They should go beyond the company's immediate business goals.
Yeah, I think that's important for keeping that spirit of innovation.
Right.
If every single challenge is just about solving the company's problems, it can feel a little stifling.
Restrictive. Yeah. So there are things that organizers can do to make hackathons more beneficial for participants. But what about the participants themselves?
Oh, yeah, good point.
How can they approach these events strategically so they get the most out of it?
Well, the article suggests going in with a very clear set of personal goals, like, what do you want to get out of this? Is it about learning a new technology? Is it about building a project for your portfolio? Or is it just about networking and meeting other developers?
So having those goals in mind can help you stay focused and make the most of your time.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and try to do too much.
Right, and remember, the learning doesn't stop when the hackathon's over.
This is so
But
important.
this is where those coding education platforms we talked about can be super helpful.
For sure.
Right, you can use platforms like Algo Academy to go deeper into those concepts you were exposed to during the hackathon, practice with similar projects, and even prepare for technical interviews if you're hoping to get a job. You know.
Absolutely. Turn that initial spark of inspiration from the hackathon into a real learning journey.
So to get back to our question, can hackathons be both beneficial for participants,
Yeah,
serve a company's interests?
I think so, but it really takes effort from both sides.
Yeah.
Organizers need to be transparent, offer fair compensation, and have diverse challenges.
Right.
And participants need to go in with clear goals, a strategic approach.
Mm.
You know, see the hackathon as just one step in their journey.
It's a two-way street.
It is.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to go back to that Python code example from the article.
Okay, yeah.
I think it'd be helpful to break it down a little further and show our listeners how a simple concept like fetching weather data can be expanded into something really impressive.
Yeah. Let's do it. Remember, this script uses the Open Weather Map API to get weather information for a given city.
Right.
And we talked about APIs before. They let different software applications talk to each other.
Right? It's like our script is sending a text to Open Weather Map saying, hey, what's the weather like in Paris?
Exactly. And Open Weather Map texts back with all the detail.
All the juicy detail.
Yeah, temperature, humidity, wind speed, the whole 9 yards.
And that data comes back in JSON format,
Right.
which we can then use to display that information to the user.
Exactly. Make it nice and easy to read.
Okay, so let's walk through the code step by step.
Okay.
First thing we need to do is import the requests library in Python.
Okay. The requests library is what we use to make those API calls.
So it's like our script's personal assistant,
Yeah, I like that.
handling all the communication with Open Weather Map behind the scenes.
Doing all the hard work for us.
Then we need to tell it what city we want the data for. So let's just stick with Paris for now.
Okay, Paris it is.
And we need our API key,
Right, our secret code.
our secret password.
That lets us access the weather database.
Okay, then we construct the URL for our API requests.
Yeah, so we're combining the base URL for Open Weather Map with our API key and the city we want, which is Paris.
So it's like building this custom web address.
Exactly. It tells Open Weather Map exactly what we're looking for.
Then we use the request.get function to send our request and store the response in a variable.
So we're hitting that send button.
We're hitting send on that text message.
And if all goes well,
Fingers crossed.
Open Weather Map sends back a response with the weather data for Paris in that nice JSON format.
Which our script then needs to parse
Right, unpack it.
to extract all that good information.
And we can use Python's JSON library for that.
Okay.
It's like a set of tools specifically designed for opening that JSON package.
So once we've extracted all the good stuff, we can display it to the user.
Right, maybe a simple text output, showing the temperature, humidity, and wind speed in Paris.
Now, this is just a very basic example.
Very basic.
But imagine if we expanded on it.
No, the possibilities.
We could add a graphical interface,
Make it look pretty.
let users input their own locations.
Personalized weather reports.
We could even integrate data from other APIs.
Ooh, like air quality data or pollen counts.
And we could even incorporate historical weather data.
Oh, yeah. Let users track weather patterns over time.
It's amazing how a simple script can be the foundation for something much more complex and useful.
It really is. That's what I love about hackathons. You get that initial spark,
Yeah, that starting point.
and with the right resources and some dedication, you can turn it into something truly amazing.
Yeah, it really shows you that you don't have to be like a coding genius
Right.
to build something cool.
Exactly.
It's a little knowledge,
Yeah.
a lot of creativity,
A lot of creativity, for sure.
and the possibilities are endless.
Endless, yeah.
And that brings us back to you, dear listener.
Yes.
We've explored all the ins and outs of hackathons, the good, the bad, the
Yeah.
maybe even a little exploitative.
Uh-huh.
So knowing all of this, how would you approach them differently?
Ooh, that's a great question to think about.
Yeah.
Are you going for the prizes,
Yeah.
the chance to impress a future employer? Or is it more about learning something new?
Yeah.
The excitement of building something?
Yeah.
And the connections you make along the way?
I think it's okay to be motivated by both.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
There's no shame in wanting to win
Yeah.
or get noticed by a recruiter.
Absolutely.
But going in with a clear idea of your goals,
Yes.
your priorities,
Uh,
can make a big difference.
I think that's key.
Yeah. And even if you don't walk away with a prize
Right.
or a job offer,
Yeah.
the experience is still so valuable.
You're learning new things.
You're expanding your network.
Exactly.
Maybe you're discovering a passion for a new technology or a specific problem.
That's something you take with you.
Yeah.
Way beyond the hackathon itself.
It's a stepping stone.
A catalyst.
And if you're feeling inspired to learn more about coding or explore hackathons,
Yeah,
there are so many amazing resources out there.
there are.
We've talked a lot about Algo Academy on this episode.
They're great.
For good reason, they offer that structured learning environment.
Uh-huh.
They've got practice projects. They even have interview prep
Very helpful.
to help you get into the tech industry.
And there are also tons of online communities,
Yeah.
tutorials, open source projects.
It's about finding what works best for you,
Exactly.
your learning style.
And never stop exploring.
Keep being curious,
The tech world is always changing.
always changing.
Always something new to learn, something new to create.
So to wrap up our deep dive into hackathons,
Let's leave you with a final thought.
a parting piece of advice.
Hackathons can be amazing learning experiences,
Okay.
but approach them strategically
Right.
with a clear purpose.
And a little bit of
So
skepticism.
just a little bit.
Don't let the hype overshadow your own goals.
Your goals are important.
And never stop pushing yourself to learn and grow.
Until next time.
Happy coding, everyone.